Welcome to the Maximize Business Value Podcast. This podcast is brought to you by Mastery Partners, where our mission is to equip business owners to maximize business value so they can transition their business on their terms. Our mission was born from the lessons we've learned from over 100 business transactions, which fuels our desire to share our experiences and wisdom so you can succeed. Now here's your host, CEO of Mastery Partners, Tom Bronson.
Hi, this is Tom Bronson, and welcome to Maximize Business Value, a podcast for business owners who are passionate about building long-term sustainable value in their businesses. This week, I want to tell you about something that I just did. I was able to check something off my bucket list this year. Back in the first week of June, I was connected with a new client in San Diego, and it was time for me to go out and visit him. And so I suggested that I come out to San Diego, but because I've got a relationship with this client, and we've talked many times, he knows that Alaska has been on my bucket list. I've always wanted to go there. And so since he said that he goes to Alaska every summer and that it had just opened up for tourism again, that perhaps we should have our business meeting in Alaska. And I jumped at the opportunity. I said, when would you like to go? And he said, well, in about a week or so. And so we had a really, really short time to prepare. We found out that in order to get into Alaska, you had to be tested in advance for COVID-19. And so I went and had my brain biopsy, as a good friend of mine who's an emergency room physician told me, and it was every bit as pleasant as that. And of course, I knew that flying conditions were going to be less than appealing. Wearing a face mask all the time, very little service, but it gets the job done. So we prepared for the trip. Since I'd never been, how do I prepare? Well, I read lots. I go to the internet, I do some research, but it also helped that I had a guide, someone who had been there before. And he sent me a document called the Dalton Highway Visitor's Guide. So Dalton Highway is a trucker path between Fairbanks and the Arctic Ocean. I'd like to read you just a little bit from the guide, if I can, just for a moment. The Dalton Highway is a rough industrial road that begins 84 miles north of Fairbanks and ends 414 miles later in Deadhorse, the industrial camp at Prudhoe Bay. It provides a rare opportunity to traverse a remote, unpopulated part of Alaska to the very top of the continent. Traveling this farthest north road involves real risks and challenges. At first, the highway was called Haul Road because almost everything supporting oil development was hauled on tractor-trailer rigs to its final destination. In 1981, the state of Alaska renamed the highway after James B. Dalton, a longtime Alaskan and an expert in Arctic engineering who was involved in early oil exploration efforts on the North Slope. The highway was opened only to commercial traffic when it was built until 1981, when the state allowed public access to a fun place called Disaster Creek at milepost 211. In 1994, public access was allowed to the highway all the way to Deadhorse for the first time. Today, the Dalton Highway beckons adventurous souls to explore a still wild and mysterious frontier. Respect this harsh land and appreciate the opportunity to visit this special part of the world. So for our trip, our plan was to fly into Fairbanks and then drive on to Coldfoot, which is some 6 hours north of Fairbanks, where we had rented a cabin, and then ultimately go on past the Adigan Pass, which begins the North Slope all the way down to the Arctic Ocean. Adigan Pass is 8 hours north of Fairbanks on this road. So here are some of the warnings that came from this lovely little document and how they relate to transitioning your business. First, you have to prepare for the drive. You can't take a normal rental car. There is some pavement on the Dalton Highway, but mostly it is a gravel highway. Because it was built for trucks, truckers have the right of way, and you need to move over and let them do their work. There are no medical facilities between Fairbanks and Dead Horse, a distance of 500 miles. Gas, food, and vehicle repairs are extremely limited, and there's no cell service. The lesson? Find out as much as you can in advance and prepare like your life depends on it, because it does. The same lesson applies to business owners who are thinking about transitioning their business. They should learn as much as they can, as far in advance as possible, so they will be ready when the time comes. The second lesson is read and heed the warnings. I'd heard that the mosquitoes are pretty bad in that area. And can they really be that bad? Well, here's what the Dalton Highway Visitor's Guide has to say about that. Are the bugs really that bad? Yes! Exclamation point. Hordes of mosquitoes emerge in June and last until August, biting flies and gnats until September. Insects are worst on calm days in low wetland areas. Insect repellents containing DEET are most effective. A head net and bug jacket are essential if you plan any outdoor activities. So before we left Fairbanks, we stopped by a store and picked up some organic repellent, not wanting to get DEET because of the possible side effects. After a day in the wilderness, though, I can tell you, I would prefer the potentially cancer-causing effects of DEET than enduring the swarms of mosquitoes. Thank goodness we were able to find some. The lesson here: heed the warnings, just like the mosquitoes. If you've never been through a business transition or a business exit, due diligence can be every bit as bad as the mosquitoes along the Dalton Highway. If you're prepared in advance, you have a much better chance of survival. Due diligence, just like mosquitoes, won't last forever. Too many potential deals fall apart during due diligence because the business is just not prepared for the rigors of it. Prepare in advance, and you can make it through the process. The next lesson: learn how to handle threats in advance. The Dalton Highway cuts through some of the best, most beautiful terrain in North America, but it's also home to two large and dangerous beasts: moose and grizzly bears, and you don't deal with them the same way. If a moose charges, run. If you encounter a grizzly bear, stand your ground, make some noise, and raise your arms in order to appear larger than you are. If you stand your ground against a moose, you're going to get trampled. If you run from a grizzly, he'll chase you, and guess what? He can run faster than you can. When we went on a river guided trip, our river guide told us that jogging in Alaska is bad for your health. He said, and I don't know if we can believe him here or not, but he said that more people are mauled by bears and moose jogging than any other way. So I guess jogging is bad for your health in Alaska. The lesson that you can learn here is that if you know what to expect in advance, you can prepare for it. Along the path of transitioning a business, there are plenty of dangers. However, if you prepare on how to deal with them before they happen, you can make it through the transition and avoid the pitfalls. To wrap things up, let me recount the lessons for you. Just like going to Alaska for the first time, when it comes to transitioning a business, the more prepared you are, the more likely you will have a wonderful and successful experience. Prepare long before you think you need to. Understand the dangers and the pitfalls. Be ready to hunker down during due diligence because it won't last forever. Do your homework and stay connected, and make sure that you have a guide to take you through the process. This is Maximize Business Value Podcast, where we give practical advice to business owners on how to build long-term sustainable value in your business and prepare for that eventual transition. Be sure to tune in each week and follow us wherever you found this podcast. And be sure to comment. We love comments and we respond to all of them. So until next time, I'm Tom Bronson, reminding you to stay safe while you maximize business value.
Thank you for tuning in to the Maximize Business Value podcast with Tom Bronson. This podcast is brought to you by Mastery Partners, where our mission is to equip business owners to maximize business value so they can transition on their own terms. Our mission was born from the lessons we've learned from over 100 business transactions, which fuels our desire to share our experiences and wisdom so you can succeed. Learn more on how to build long-term, sustainable business value and get free value-building tools by visiting our website, www.masterypartners.com. That's Mastery with a Y, masterypartners.com. Check it out.
That was perfect. I wouldn't make any changes on that.